Namaskara. The habit is, of course, to say good morning. But thank you, TEDx. Thank you for giving me this powerful platform to share my thoughts. Initially, I did wonder what is really going to be there in my life that conforms to this. But before I share with you today the three concepts that have kind of been helpful in my life, that have worked out for me, let's say, I think I owe you a backgrounder of my own life, just so that it's easier for you to then understand. Which takes me back to my childhood. Serene, content, joyous, in a middle-class family in the India of the 70s and the 80s, born to a man who was an engineer with power plants, and a job that took us, that is my mother, my only sibling, my younger sister, and me, crisscross across India, to places, towns, townships, places that are specks on the map, but places where we lived and breathed, which saw people coming from all states of India, speaking so many languages, food habits, cultures, festivals. I remember living out of my friend's place and vice versa. We just mingled, and I do not remember, and I'm not making this up, even a single time when I got asked, what is your religion? Or if you think that's too obvious, which caste do you belong to? Didn't happen. So which means it was, you can imagine, a very happy childhood. But I would say it was a useful childhood. Useful to this day, this age. The values that one got given at that time, I realize have stood me in good stead right through the career, the way it panned out. And so, moving on, even educational life, let's say, had these intersections happening. I graduated in electronics, mathematics, physics. But I figured that journalism was my first love, so I made the transition. Being a journalist was a high, just gave me a high. Because as a journalist, you have an extraordinary privilege to see what the world will see after you do. And you get to report history as it is being made. Well, I started my career as a sub-editor at the New Indian Express and as part of a team that was in charge of bringing out late city editions, things that you as readers will not even imagine can really have a very exciting sort of vibe in the newsroom, giving headlines, which news goes where. Slogging out the late night shifts, returning home like one ghost at 2 in the morning, and of course, not having a proper day off. But you just loved your work. I moved on, of course, to a .com, and there it was a digital world, a B2B portal that I was managing the editorial at. Everything was fine. I suddenly had this absolute luxury called the weekend, which I really did not have. No journalist has, 24/7. But the .com shut shop, and I realized I was jobless. What happened, though, was that I did many random things, among which I also signed up for theater classes, I remember. And my mother did tell me that a drama queen actually needs theater classes. And by one freak hand of destiny, I landed up at a radio station as a guest to speak on world press freedom, something as lofty as that. Said things eminently forgettable. Let's not get into details. But someone at the end of the show actually felt that, Vasanthi, your voice is radiogenic. Has anyone heard the term? We know photogenic, right? Even I knew the word, heard it first time only when I got told that I have a voice for radio. I said, all right. And then by a turn of events, I landed up becoming the show host of a primetime breakfast show of a buzzing, snazzy city like Bangalore, saying, Good Morning Bangalore City, live, 4 hours for 4 years. And what magic it was connecting with that city. And of course, the connections that we will come to and the power that I want to share with you which make these lines intersect. Because after radio, I moved on to television to report national news, and then got, of course, an opportunity to anchor a documentary for BBC World News from places like Nepal and Vietnam. But I just remember thinking to myself, saying that you're always surprised that this is happening to you. You people who do not have, let's say, godfathers, people who do not necessarily have some extra privileges, which brings me to the point that it is possible for anyone, just anyone, to weave this magic into your lives. And what is therefore, after I quit that, because by which time marriage and motherhood had happened along the way, I wanted to be able to spend some more time with my child. And I told myself that I will now work at my own pace. But the list of amazing experiences that one got drawn into as a storyteller of a mythological tale called The Goddesses of India, to be on a climate change trip into Ladakh, or to Brussels to actually moderate at a European Union-backed conference. So people told me, you are so lucky. How do these things happen to you? Sure, luck plays a part, but there are more things to it, which is what this whole talk is all about. Because I believe that of the 3 C's that I will share with you today, the first of it is involving the community. The power of the community. No matter who it is, it could be listeners, viewers, readers, audience, your own family. In my case, my husband, my child, my mother, my support system, my in-laws. Keep the community involved. Because if you invest in the community gives you enough ROI, which is that the community is interested in you. And this is how you make these intersections. When I tell people, particularly those who are younger, I just say that, you know what, there is actually a method to it. You can call it a science, go figure. But I do feel that if you actually go where life takes, take what life gives, without judging it too much. Of course, it's important to have a broad blueprint. I'm not denying that. But to have a choice, to not be very fussy about choices. Go do things so fantastically well. And when you do that, believe me, also talk about it, because good work is contagious. Good work gets you more good work. Build that body of work. And then see where it takes you along. In my case, the way I started out, I would never have imagined that I would get these opportunities. And whenever someone tells that, you know, you're a rolling stone, I said, yeah, rolling stone gathers no moss, but it certainly gets an exciting resume. Well, more and more, a documentary maker, film workshop in the Himalayas, and well, also got to model. Don't go by this picture. But also for a sari that was actually woven by women weavers, so in solidarity. And I thought I must share it with you, particularly younger women who will make these decisions and who can have these notions among themselves that, okay, now I'm married. Now I have a child. Oh, he's like growing up. What will people say? Allow none of these to rule your life. These really are not parallels at all. It's fine if you shake a leg at the club tonight and show up for your family worship puja tomorrow. And which brings me to the next point, the next C. Because when you have the power of community, it is natural that in the community there are people who are diverse, who come with such skill sets. And there is something good when you sit back and let things happen and surrender yourself. And the kind of outcome that it gives you is beautiful, unexpected, and in this case, truly, truly rewarding, because it made me an entrepreneur when I least expected it. It all actually began with a very chance conversation with a friend, a senior journalist friend in Chicago. And basically, I was telling him, there is a celebrated actress, Smita Patil, and I want to watch her films, give up everything that I'm doing for a week. And he said, why do you want to just watch this film alone? Show it to an entire city. And at that moment, there was a realization that this was opening doors into a universe that I would have never been able to plan. Sorry, I don't have that kind of wisdom. But today, if I have turned curator of film festivals, I had, of course, two routes to go by. And one was a route to probably hire event managers, figure out investors, who's to do film rights, what is the logistics, venue of the film festival, or actually build a community of people who all of us will figure it as we go along. And that is why, somewhere along this time last year, my day job was to pray on Facebook, P-R-E-Y. Anyone who is online, has the same film sensibility, ethics match, passionate about cinema, tick marks, social causes, bring them in. You like to do a film festival together with me? And so we built a community. And this community looks like this. It's got diverse professionals. It's got artists, activists, homemakers, journalists, engineering students, but no one's a full-time resource at Pickle Jar. But what we do, and people take time whenever they have the weekends off and whenever there's a program to be accomplished. And it is fantastic when I get told that, a film festival would take months to probably sometimes plan. And this amazing set of people power, I remember, did the film festival in 45 days flat. 3 days. Thank you on behalf of the team. Why Pickle Jar? A quick note. Because Indian homes, remember how fussy we are about making pickles? Have to wash our hands, do that, this thing. I wanted to curate programs with so much care. I wanted it long after the program is done, that flavor, to create programs that are sensible, sensitive, and you as a viewer and audience, the taste of this program should linger on long after you had it, like a pickle. So Pickle Jar today, of course, dreams much more than film festivals. We want to do programs of more of social relevance, and which actually brings me to the last point, which is the last C. For some time now, I have been thinking that while we, of course, have a community, and do not hesitate to collaborate. See, even me, even this PowerPoint and even the sketches that you will now see are by people who are more skilled than I am. There's Vinay Varanasi, who has done the sketches that you're now going to see in the next few slides. That when you do not have the skill sets, you collaborate. And then, of course, you complement those. The third one, which I want to leave you with, is the power of conversation. I have been thinking to myself that today's world of social media, when there's just so much of proliferation of all kinds of medium, there is such less one-to-one communication. We talk at each other, but what is the chance that we talk to each other calmly? And is that possible? I want to be able to create a conversation, let's say in Bangalore for starters, and I call it the Bangalore meets Bangalore, or in a larger sweep, the Humanity Meets Humanity project. Let's say we have a person who's a priest in Malleshwaram, which is the part of town that's old world, that's known for that kind of charm. And here is a priest whose attire, whose lifestyle choices, his diet, everything confirms very deeply to the values that he believes in. And we put him on the same stage, we as the audience, maybe on a stage like this. The priest talks face to face with a DJ who is a global, probably jet setter, who's probably from the Northeast, has come to Bangalore to make this his own place. Tattoos all over, while of course the priest also has religious marks all over, if there's any common ground. But what would a conversation between them feel like? Will the priest be dismissed as poor old fuddy-duddy? Will this man think that the DJ, is morally bankrupt? Chances are that they might even walk off the stage. But there's also a chance that when we put polar opposite sides, like let's say this elderly grandmother who lives in a joint family, who nurtures her family and meets a filmmaker or a traveler who's in a live-in relationship, whose notions of womanhood and marriage and motherhood may be drastically different from this elderly person's, which might shock her. But chances are that if we are talking to one another, there is a little more understanding than what they had before. This is, of course, a dream that one has. I hope these things will happen not just in Bangalore, but across India. A CEO with a watchman, let's say. A watchman whose entire years of wages probably will still not work up to a daily take-home salary of a CEO. It happens. We all know that. We live in an age where there's increasing intolerance, where there's increasing gap between the rich and the poor. What can you and I do to make it any better? And these conversations need to happen. Paris meets Paris. Maybe Syrian immigrants need to meet Europeans. Maybe there should be a conversation between a Trump fan and a Trump hater. You never know what the power of conversation can actually bring about. I had once a chance where I was at this conversation between an Israeli Jew and a Palestinian, and I can tell you what a beautiful conversation that was. We need more of these. And let's probably make that happen. Would we not want in our own lifetime to see a better world that is really free of this sort of hate around us? And it is possible. It's not just lofty politician speech. And this is exactly why I wanted to share with you. Because in science and mathematics, actually they say that parallel lines meet at infinity. But guess what? There is also an ancient Indian Vedantic thought which says that each one of us carries the infinite within us, which means we really have such potential. What our educational qualifications are, what our background is, doesn't really matter to what you can actually accomplish. Those accomplishments, those dialogues, those conversations, the caring of the community, that collaboration, I wish that you all do that and go ahead and do marvelous things in your lifetime that you will get to live only once. And maybe we need to make more of this magic happen. Maybe we need more parallel lines to intersect. Namaste.